Hello, Pamela.
Hello, Dean. Thank you so much for stopping by with the Favor family to give us the scoop on your next project, which is amazing. And my first question to you is, the decision to do something like this from animation to live action, what was the thought process for all of this?
Well, in summary, it was Universal Studios that approached me with the idea, and they said, "Listen, we're kicking the tires on this idea of a live-action remake," and I immediately thought, selfishly, I don't want to see someone else's version of it.
Yes.
So I said, "If you're going to do it, please consider me. I know I haven't made a live-action movie, but I do know where the heart and soul is. I know these characters. I know this world, and so my pledge and promise is that I will make sure that this is not a soulless remake. It's going to have all of that richness intact." And they took a chance. So credit to Universal for letting me, get the crack to try to deliver this in such a way that it had integrity.
Now, I want to tell you, you did an amazing job with everything. So they did the right
Thank you.
thing. So how
Thank
did
you.
you balance staying faithful to the spirit of the original film while making this version feel fresh and new for the newcomers?
Well, I think a lot of it was just knowing that the themes are still relevant today, and that we could deliver a version of this story that is even I guess broader in its appeal, because it's not just aimed at kids; it's aimed at adults as well. And the idea of the push and pull of love and expectation between parents and children, and kind of living up to expectation versus following your heart and leading with compassion and empathy. Those are as relevant today as they ever have been. So uh, I wanted to make sure that that was always at the forefront. And then we just cast it really well. We got actors who could embody the spirit of those characters, who knew the animated movies, and so they were building upon something that was part of their childhood and important to them, but bringing themselves to it as well. And that just, it gave it so much nuance and texture that it transcended what we were able to do in the animated movies in terms of the human connection, of seeing human faces and letting them take the scenes and shape them and letting it breathe.
Well, even with this, how did you approach translating the emotional bond between Hiccup and Toothless in a live action setting compared to animation? Because that's not easy. And some people may think, well, you can do it, but you really have to have that chemistry in there. So, how did you do that?
We gave our human actors scene partners in the form of puppeteers. So we
Okay.
had master puppeteers who had been behind stage productions like The War Horse or The Life of Pi. And
Mhm.
they were there on set with us with foam versions of the heads and bodies of every dragon. So if it was Mason Thames and Toothless in a quiet scene where they're drawing in the sand and touching for the first time, it wasn't just a tennis ball on a stick saying, "Look over here." Uh, you had the dragon essentially there, emoting, acting, and responding to everything that Mason was doing. So he became a character in the set that would eventually be replaced by CGI animation, but at least there was something there to have a truthful performance come out.
Now, were there any character updates or changes you felt necessary for this live action format overall?
I think the biggest change was just giving Nico Parker's character Astrid more dimension. She was a little bit she was a little bit shortchanged in the animated movie just because of screen time, and I thought this was an opportunity to understand where she came from, what her ambition was, how she worked really hard for the status that she now enjoys as the best of her generation. You understand a little bit of the acrimony between her and Hiccup, because Hiccup kind of coasts by as the chief's
Yeah.
son, and he's a kid of privilege, and
Yes.
she's quite serious, and she takes the whole Viking tradition very seriously. So it's something for her to sacrifice in the end when she decides to side with Hiccup. And I appreciated the opportunity to kind of make a cool character even cooler and richer.
Now, was there a scene where you were really excited to bring it to live action because it's totally different from animation, So, but
Yes.
what scene would you say pinpointed an excitement for you?
Just building upon that last point, there's a moment where Astrid decides that whatever happens on Hiccup's graduation day, when he's supposed to kill a dragon in front of everyone, that she's going to stand by his side. And it sets up a scene that for me was really gratifying because it involved hundreds of Vikings and warriors, and involves pyrotechnics and stunts, and but there's a really strong emotional core because you get the heartbreak of Stoic finally publicly being proud of his son, and Hiccup knowing it's for all the wrong reasons, and then you've got the connection of Astrid saying, whatever goes wrong, I'm by your side, and then Toothless rushing in to save Hiccup, but it's ultimately heartbreaking because he gets captured. And I just love the roller coaster of emotion that happens in that scene, and it feels quite, it's like a movie within a movie, and it's quite epic.
Now, you know, as a child, I used to believe, and I still believe, that there are dragons. Were you a believer before this movie ever hit the silver screen?
As a kid, I was also, I loved, my head was always stuck in fantasy.
Hmm.
It's what I loved to draw, and yes, I always dreamed of having a connection with an animal. This, I didn't have a pet growing up. You know, I was sort of an adoptive parent to a cat that was, you know, a little bit neglected and abused by a neighbor, and so I was always feeding it and, you know, making a little house for it and trying to care for it. But I think my longing for a connection with like an animal, especially a big, powerful animal,
Yes.
was present from the time I was a child, and so I think there's something quite universal about that. It seems to travel the whole world. This wish fulfillment of having a dragon of your own.
Okay, so for the viewers, 2027, I'm hearing a little buzz. What should happen in 2027 as it relates to this franchise?
Movie two. Yeah, I'm supposed to be writing that right now.
Get busy.
Yeah, we need to get going. So yes, we will have a movie in theaters if all goes well in June of 27, and it's going to be the second installment of this franchise.
Well, we're rooting for you. We're praying for you all. Amazing film and great job. And we'll see you in 2027.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.